912 early build painted dash. Okay, John, can you explain the last service you did? You did a major service this last year.
So we had an engine out service this past year. We did a top end rebuild. Rebuilt the Solex carburetors, which were single shaft carburetors that are original to these cars. Put them back on. Put back in these early 65 Hummelmann air filters, which are pretty hard to find and unique to the early cars. I redid the distributor, which is the original 022 Bosch distributor. Rebuilt the fuel pump. Redid the whole belt assembly. Put all new sound padding and seals and everything else in the engine bay.
This is brand new here.
Correct. And on the sides. And then there's the serial number for the engine. It's number 297. The 83 is a European designation. And then the early cars had this kind of flat metal engine carrying bar.
Yeah, right here.
Which changed later. And then it's a European car, so it has European lenses.
Okay.
Front and rear.
Okay, so these are the European lenses.
And the exhaust system is also unique to the European car, where it has a different heater system. That's also what that big crossover tube is for, the heating system inside the engine bay.
Okay.
It has brand new Michelin XCX tires this year. The wheels are all date matched 165, and they were re-chromed this year. The whole suspension was redone. All the brakes were redone, and a few things in the interior were redone. The interior is fairly original, except the seats were redone. It has a newer carpet kit, and the steering wheel was refinished. It's got the kilometers per hour. Speedometer has the European Frankfurt Blaupunkt, and it's got all the unique 65 details, like the 4-screw dashboard. This is a early car that has the painted dash, so it's a lot more kind of hybrid of the 356 and the 911 than some of the later ones. It has the fluted 356 shift knob, the 356 style barrel headrests, and then on the other side of the car you can see a few details, like the brass ignition bezel is and it has a locking European ignition.
Yeah, you don't see that very often.
And then these little knobs to release the fuel door and the trunk release are a different shape in these early cars than other ones. It has its Karmann body tag there with the serial number and the 6406 Irish green paint code.
Usually this has like paint all over these little.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then so on the painted dash cars, also this lower knee bar
that little corner
just returns down instead of up on the later cars, where it kind of captures the aluminum trim on the face that this car doesn't have.
How long have you had this car for?
Around 8 years. I've driven it a fair amount and then kind of tried to clean it up as much as possible this year. This has the this one wheel I did not re-chrome. This is all original.
It looks brand new.
Yeah, you can see here's the date code, the 165. These are limbers, which were typically chrome wheels, versus the other standard wheels are painted. And so this is an original tire. This gas tank is original and unique in that it still has its
Oh, look
sombrero
at that.
coating on it.
Yeah, wow.
Which you never see
That's outstanding.
And then it's clean all inside here.
Yeah, it's not all crusty like
This is the VIN. On the early cars, the VIN tag is up in this area versus being down in the latch panel. And so it has the VIN stamped into the body.
Okay, I see that right there.
And then the tag here.
Okay.
And then these early cars have some weird parts that are different, like this kind of calico looking plastic here. This vent part is made out of plastic as well, which went to some sort of metal later. This car has the 4-screw front fenders, which is only on the 65 and some of the early 66 cars. So that's, you know,
yeah, there's a
some
lot of
cars
small
either have lost their fenders, so they have a
details.
2-screw fender on one or both. This has its original ones.
All these seals, everything's in really nice condition.
All the seals in the whole car have been kind of redone.
Yeah.
In the doors, all throughout the trim. And then this car has the early silver window wipers that park on the passenger side versus on the driver's side. It's got the orange hood crest. And there's a few other subtle features, like the early cars on the window trim, they have these kind of beveled out trim pieces on the edge that flare out towards the rear of the car.
What made you interested in buying one of these early 912s?
I've had a lot of various Porsche cars, and I kind of always liked the earlier 60s cars, but wasn't really something I could approach until a few years ago. And I looked at many 356s, and then I decided I'd rather try to find a 912. And of the 912s, all I wanted was a early painted dash car. And it's a considerably hard thing to find in basically any condition.
Well, you see them, but they're mostly kind of junk.
Yeah, any condition, any color, or let alone having a matching drivetrain is very difficult to find. So
this is all matching.
yeah, this car has its original paint color, its original interior trim, its original engine and transmission, and all the correct parts for the car, which most have lost over the last 50 years or so. And yeah, it's just a very clean, honest car.
Looks amazing. People don't leave you alone in this thing.
It does draw a lot of attention. It's a very kind of classic color combo. And it just fits well in any environment, really.
All right. Well, thanks for looking. All right, these are the records for the 1965 early 912 with the painted dash. We have registration, what about 30 registration cards previously in history. What year did this start, John?
So it shows back to 1969, and that owner went through 1984, and then the next owner went through to about 2009, I think.
And these are all California?
Correct.
Okay.
And then it's had, since 2009, it's had about 3 different owners, including myself, that had more short-term ownership. And I bought it in around 2013 and did a bunch of work on the car to kind of get it as correct and original as possible.
So it was out of the state for a couple years, just in Nevada though?
It was in Nevada for a little bit, and then I think for a year or two it actually went to the East Coast, maybe in like the 2010-11 range.
Is that the original books?
Yes, this is the owner manual and the accessory manual, and this is for the Blaupunkt radio. It's a European model radio, and it has all the information on that. We can lay it out and take some photos of that as well.
Can you tell us about the recent service?
This is the Cardex for the car. which shows that it was built in May of '65, so it's a true 65 car. It's number 365 of the Karmann built 912s, and it came from the factory with a 5-speed transmission, the Irish green paint. It came with black and Pepita, which is the houndstooth type material, and it had chrome wheels, wood steering wheel, Blaupunkt Frankfurt radio, and a loudspeaker and antenna. It was a European delivery car from Hamburg, and then I believe it came to kind of, I'm not too sure who this is the original owner. I don't know exactly where. I think somewhere in the Bay Area. And presumably they owned it till they sold it to this person in 1969.
So this is all original.
Correct.
Okay.
All matching numbers, engine, drivetrain.
Explain to me this book over here. What kind of details they have there?
So this book has a lot of chronological information in it from 1984 when it changed the ownership.
So those are handwritten notes from
Correct.
35 years ago.
Yes, and it goes through quite a bit of information from fuel filling to general maintenance. I think there's a bunch of stuff from, see this changed the carburetors. There's things from going through the engine, and it covers over 130,000 miles or something on here.
Oh, wow.
And it goes,
So that's full documentation pretty much.
it has quite a bit. And then so it goes through from 84 to 2008.
Oh, wow.
And then since then, the records over here are primarily covered.
So these are the newer service records, and what was that last major service that you did?
So over the last year, I've gone through basically every mechanical system in the car. The whole brake system was rebuilt. The calipers were redone. The suspension was redone with all new bushings, and powder coating all the spring plates, and the engine was taken partially apart down to the block, had a top end rebuild, and kind of cleaned all the surfaces. It had the original Solex carburetors rebuilt and put back on, new fuel pump. The transmission was removed, the flywheel was resurfaced, the transmission was resealed and kind of gone through with some new bearings. The gears were all satisfactory, so didn't replace any like major parts in there. But so basically all that, and then I also redid a few things in the interior, like the steering wheel. The wood steering wheel had refinished, had the seats refinished by Autobahn here in San Diego. That's very popular.